Every few months, Hollywood releases something set in Las Vegas. A heist film, a romantic comedy, a thriller, a prestige drama, a streaming series, a reboot of something that was already set in Las Vegas 20 years ago. The productions are expensive, and the locations are authentic, and the cinematography captures the Strip the way the Strip has always looked best. From a moving vehicle at night, with the windows down and the neon blurring past and the sense of electricity in the air that makes every person who has ever driven down Las Vegas Boulevard for the first time feel like something important is about to happen to them. The productions hire consultants and location scouts and technical advisors. They film inside real casinos and use real chips and dress real dealers in real uniforms. They get the details right in every way that is visible to a camera, and then they set their story in a Las Vegas that has not existed for 15 years. In a city where the casino wants you there, and the floor manager comps your room because you are a valued customer, and the cocktail server brings you a drink because you are a guest, and the blackjack pays 3-2, and the handshake deal between the house and the player is real and operative and honored by both sides. They get every visible detail right, and they get the most important invisible detail completely wrong. They are filming the set. They have not noticed that the soul of the building was removed years ago and replaced with a financial model. The gap between the Las Vegas that Hollywood is selling and the Las Vegas that exists is the subject of this video. Not because the gap is new. Hollywood has always romanticized its settings, but because the gap has become so wide and so consequential that it is now actively shaping the decisions of millions of people who are booking trips to a city they believe they understand from the screen and discovering, within the first 24 hours of arrival, that the city they arrived in is not the city they came to find. The mythology that Hollywood built and maintains about Las Vegas is one of the most powerful and most expensive pieces of false advertising in the history of American popular culture. It is costing people money, it is costing them time, and it is costing them the specific, irreplaceable loss of discovering that something you believed in and looked forward to does not exist in the form you expected. That discovery, which is happening to hundreds of thousands of visitors a year, is a form of cultural fraud being perpetrated by an entertainment industry that has not updated its Vegas mythology since the Rat Pack was still a going concern. Sold to a city that is paying the LVCVA $1 billion a year to reinforce the same mythology, and delivered to visitors who arrive expecting Ocean's 11 and find the flamingo with no hot water. The specific films and television productions that have built and sustained the Hollywood Las Vegas mythology are worth naming because they are the primary inputs that shape most Americans' mental model of the city before their first visit. Ocean's 11, the 2001 Steven Soderbergh film, is the most important single piece of Las Vegas mythology in the modern cultural record. Its influence on how Americans understand Las Vegas as a concept, as an aesthetic, as a set of assumptions about what the city is and how it works and what kind of people thrive in it is incalculable. Ocean's 11 presents a Las Vegas where the casino is a powerful adversary worthy of the respect that comes with a worthy opponent, where the floor is staffed by professionals who know the games and the players and the rhythms of the house, where the vault at the Bellagio contains the real stakes of real wealth, and where the player who understands the system well enough can beat it. It is a fantasy, and it was always a fantasy. But it was a fantasy grounded in a recognizable version of Las Vegas that existed when the film was made and that communicated real truths about the culture of the city, even as it exaggerated them for dramatic effect. The Bellagio of Ocean's 11 was the Bellagio of Steve Wynn's vision, a place of genuine luxury and genuine stakes that was trying to be the best casino in the world and was succeeding by any reasonable measure. The casino in that film has a soul. It has pride. It is a worthy adversary because it is a great institution operating at the top of its capacity. That Bellagio exists now only on screen. The physical building is still there. The fountains still perform on the hour. The lobby flowers are still magnificent. But the institution that the film captured has been replaced by a cost-optimized asset managed to a rent obligation owed to Blackstone and a share repurchase program reported quarterly to institutional investors who have never played a hand of blackjack in the building they own. The Hangover, which was released in 2009 and became one of the highest grossing rated comedies in film history, performed a different but equally consequential service for the Las Vegas mythology. It sold Las Vegas as a city of unlimited possibility and zero accountability, a place where any experience was available, where the normal rules of consequence were suspended for the duration of the visit, and where the chaos of genuine freedom could be contained within a long weekend and resolved by checkout. The Las Vegas of The Hangover is extravagant and ridiculous and entertaining precisely because it treats the city as a consequence-free zone, as a space where the normal architecture of your life is temporarily replaced by something completely different, something wilder and more vivid and more alive. The film captured something real about the psychological promise of Las Vegas, the suspension of ordinary life that the city has always traded on. But it embedded that promise in a physical setting and a hospitality culture that were already beginning to disappear when the film was made and have since been almost entirely replaced. The suite at Caesar's Palace that the characters wake up in is a suite that existed in the film because Caesars comped it, because the production needed it, and the studio was spending money in Las Vegas, and the reciprocal hospitality of the old Vegas still made that transaction possible. That suite, available on that basis to a group of people the casino wanted to host, is not the suite that a visitor to Caesar's Palace in 2026 will find waiting for them. The suite that visitor will find has been assigned by an algorithm, cleaned by an understaffed housekeeping department, and appended with a resort fee that was not in the booking price they agreed to when they reserved it. Casino, the 1995 Martin Scorsese film based on the Nicholas Pileggi book about the mob era of Las Vegas, operates in a different register from the heist films and the comedies, and its influence on the Vegas mythology is more complex and in some ways more damaging, precisely because it is a serious film made by a serious filmmaker about a serious subject. Casino presents the mob era of Las Vegas, not as a nostalgic golden age, but as a brutal, corrupt, ultimately self-destructive period of American history, and Scorsese's moral framework is clear and consistent throughout. The mob characters in Casino are not heroes. They are criminals whose greed and violence eventually destroy everything they built. The film is not a celebration of the mob era, but it is an extraordinary document of a time when Las Vegas was run by people whose personal investment in the casinos they controlled produced a specific and genuine hospitality culture, however corrupt its origins. Sam Rothstein, Robert De Niro's character, is a monster in many respects, but he is a monster who cares about the quality of the food in the restaurant and the accuracy of the game on the floor and the experience of every person who walks through the door of the Tangiers. He cares in the specific, obsessive way that people care about things they own and control and have staked their identity on. The private equity analysts who own the buildings of the modern Strip do not care in this way. They cannot. Their fiduciary obligation is to their fund's limited partners, and their performance is measured on a return on investment calculation that has no variable for the quality of the blueberry muffins at the casino. Restaurant. Scorsese's film inadvertently identified something true about the Las Vegas hospitality culture that the mob era, for all its corruption, produced, and that the corporate era has eliminated. The film did not intend to be a document of what was lost. It became one anyway. And the Reddit threads, where people quote the Goodfellas bust-out scene to describe what private equity has done to the Strip, are the evidence that the popular culture absorbed the lesson even if the industry did not. The television mythology of Las Vegas is sustained by a different set of productions, but operates on the same principle of depicting a city that no longer fully corresponds to the lived experience of visiting it. CSI, which ran for 15 seasons set primarily in Las Vegas, and which is one of the most watched television franchises in the history of American broadcasting, presented a Las Vegas that was simultaneously glamorous and dangerous, a city of infinite intrigue where the lights of the Strip provided the backdrop for stories that took the viewer into the hidden machinery of a society organized around pleasure and risk. The Las Vegas of CSI is a city with texture and depth and moral complexity, A city where things happen and where those things matter, and where the resolution of each episode restores some version of order to a world that is perpetually on the edge of chaos. This is not the Las Vegas of 2026. The Las Vegas of 2026 is a city where the primary drama available to the visitor is the dispute over a minibar charge that appeared on their folio for an item they photographed with the seal intact. The intrigue is not glamorous. The risk is not exciting. It is the risk of being financially extracted by an automated system in a building that stopped caring whether you had a good time before the algorithm was installed. Vegas, the 2012 CBS drama set in the 1960s that starred Dennis Quaid as a rancher turned Las Vegas sheriff, depicts a Las Vegas in the process of transition from its frontier origins to its casino future. A setting in which the physical and moral landscape of the American West is being remade by men with money and ambition and a willingness to operate outside the law. The show was canceled after one season, which is perhaps the most accurate thing ever produced about Las Vegas. A story about the city's actual historical character that the American viewing public found less interesting than productions that depicted the finished product rather than the process of its construction. What the canceled drama understood and the popular mythology does not is that Las Vegas was always a construction. Always a deliberate creation imposed on an inhospitable landscape by people who needed the desert's emptiness to build something that could not have been built anywhere else, and that the thing built was always fragile. Always dependent on the continued willingness of the people it was built for to believe in the promise it was making. The construction has been modified, the promise has been broken, and the American popular culture is still showing audiences the original architectural drawings. The specific mechanism by which Hollywood's Las Vegas mythology damages real visitors is not the simple disappointment of finding a place less glamorous than its depiction, which is a universal feature of the relationship between popular culture and real places. It is more specific and more consequential than that. The Hollywood mythology creates specific expectations about the economics of the Las Vegas visit that are materially false and that lead people to make real financial decisions based on false premises. A first-time Las Vegas visitor in 2026, who has formed their understanding of the city primarily through popular culture, arrives with an expectation that the casinos will treat them generously, that the comp culture is real and available to ordinary players, that the games are competitive and fair, that the total cost of the experience is roughly comparable to the nominal cost of the components, and that the physical environment is maintained at the standard that a place charging premium prices is supposed to maintain. Every one of these expectations is contradicted by the actual experience of the Strip in 2026, and the gap between each expectation and its corresponding reality represents a financial decision made on false information. The visitor who expected a comp and got a resort fee made a financial decision based on the Hollywood mythology. The visitor who sat down at a blackjack table expecting 3-2 and got 6-5 made a financial decision based on the Hollywood mythology. The visitor who booked the Flamingo because the Hollywood mythology associates it with glamour and history made a financial decision based on the Hollywood mythology and checked into a room with no hot water. The movie that captured the transition most accurately, the one that came closest to showing the Las Vegas that exists rather than the Las Vegas that was, is a film that most people have not seen and that performed modestly at the box office when it was released. Leaving Las Vegas, the 1995 Nicolas Cage film about a man who goes to Las Vegas specifically to drink himself to death, was not a Vegas mythology film in the conventional sense. It was a film about using Las Vegas as a backdrop for self-destruction, about the city as a space in which a person in the process of disappearing can do so without anyone particularly noticing or caring. The Las Vegas of Leaving Las Vegas is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is a place of profound indifference, where the machinery of entertainment runs continuously, regardless of whether the people inside it are having a good time, where the lights are on and the drinks are flowing and nobody is checking whether you are okay. That indifference, which in 1995 was a specific and somewhat unusual quality of a small slice of the Las Vegas experience, the dive bars and the cheap motels and the corners of the casino where nobody was watching, is now the dominant quality of the entire strip. The indifference has been automated and scaled. The machinery runs regardless. Nobody checks whether you are okay. The resort fee is the same whether you had a good time or not. The production design choices that Hollywood makes when depicting Las Vegas are themselves a form of historical preservation that inadvertently documents what the city looked like before the corporate era fully took hold. Films and television productions set in contemporary Las Vegas frequently use the Bellagio, the Wynn, and the Venetian as their primary locations because these properties are still maintained at a visual standard that corresponds to the luxury imagery the productions require. They do not film at the Flamingo or the Excalibur or the Luxor because the visual reality of those properties in 2026 does not correspond to the glamour narrative that the productions are trying to sustain. The result is a body of contemporary Las Vegas media that presents the 1 or 2% of the strip that still looks the part as representative of the whole. The viewer who forms their Vegas expectations from a film shot at the Bellagio and the Wynn and then books the Flamingo because it is cheaper is making a decision informed by a deliberately curated and unrepresentative visual sample of a city whose median physical standard has declined dramatically from the standard that the productions are capturing. The productions are not lying, they are selecting. And selection at that scale, sustained across decades of popular culture production, is a form of misleading that does not require a single false statement to achieve its effect. The streaming era has produced a new form of Las Vegas mythology that is in some ways more damaging than the film and television mythology of previous decades because it is delivered through a format, the travel and lifestyle documentary and the reality competition show, that presents itself as authentic rather than fictional. Reality television set in Las Vegas, which includes everything from poker tournament coverage to casino competition formats to celebrity gambling specials, presents its Las Vegas setting as the real city rather than a constructed version of it. But the Las Vegas it shows is the one that exists in the high-limit rooms and the VIP sections and the executive suites that are still maintained at a standard that does not correspond to the experience of a normal visitor, because those spaces are the ones that generate the visual material the productions need. The reality television viewer watching a celebrity poker tournament at the Aria concludes that the Aria is a glamorous, exciting, well-run place where interesting things happen and important people choose to spend their time. The Aria is, in the specific and narrow context of its high-limit poker room, exactly that. The Aria is also a hotel where a standard room in 2026 comes with a resort fee that was not in the booking price, and where the casino floor operates on the same extraction model as every other MGM property in the portfolio. The reality production captures the former. The visitor experiences the latter. The social media dimension of the Hollywood mythology problem has amplified it in ways that the traditional entertainment industry did not anticipate and does not control. The influencer economy that has developed around Las Vegas travel content operates on the same selection principle as Hollywood production design, presenting the curated, comped, access-enabled version of Las Vegas that the casino marketing departments provide to content creators in exchange for the promotional value of their coverage, and distributing that curated version to audiences who understand it as authentic personal experience. The influencer who stays in a comped suite at the Wynn and posts about the pool and the restaurant and the nightclub is posting content that is technically accurate and experientially genuine. They did stay in that suite, and they did go to that pool, but the conditions under which they access that experience, the complimentary invitation extended by the property's influencer relations department in exchange for coverage, are not disclosed in the content itself, and the follower who books a trip to Las Vegas based on that content does not have access to the same conditions. They book the Wynn at retail rates plus resort fee plus parking and arrive to find a hotel that is genuinely excellent, but whose excellence is experienced very differently when you are paying retail for it rather than receiving it as a marketing arrangement. The gap between the comped influencer experience and the retail visitor experience at the same property is substantial. It is not disclosed, and it contributes to the same misleading mythology that the Hollywood productions have been sustaining for decades. The specific Las Vegas that Hollywood demolished, the city that the mythology is still selling, had a set of characteristics that can be described precisely because enough documentation exists from the people who experienced it. It was a city where the floor manager had genuine discretion, where a regular player who had built a relationship with a property over years of visits could call their host and have a suite waiting when they arrived, not because they had reached a specific tier threshold in an algorithm, but because the host knew them, valued them, and had the authority to make the suite happen. It was a city where the blackjack tables on the main floor paid 3 to 2 and dealt from a single deck, and the rules were fair by any standard, and the player who learned basic strategy and managed their bankroll was engaging in a genuine contest with known odds and a reasonable expectation of entertainment for their money. It was a city where the buffet was the physical expression of a philosophy, where piling a plate with prime rib and crab legs for $12 was not a loss leader in the financial sense, but a statement of identity. The casino saying clearly and in the most immediate possible terms that your presence in our building has value to us that exceeds the food cost of making you feel welcome. It was a city where the total cost of the visit corresponded roughly to the quoted cost of its components, where the room rate was the room rate and the parking was included and the drink was free and the comp was real and the game was fair. That city is what Hollywood has been filming for 30 years and is still filming today. That city was demolished not with explosives but with spreadsheets, not in a single dramatic implosion that could be photographed and documented, but in 1,000 individual policy decisions spread across 15 years of corporate ownership and financial engineering and private equity extraction that were each too small and too technical to generate the cultural response that a single dramatic demolition would have produced. The stardust came down in a cloud of dust that was filmed and archived and mourned. The hospitality culture of Las Vegas dissolved in a series of quarterly earnings calls and lease agreements and loyalty program restructurings that nobody filmed because they did not look like a demolition. They looked like business. The consequence for the visitor who arrives in Las Vegas in 2026 with expectations formed by the Hollywood mythology is a specific and predictable sequence of small disappointments that accumulate into a larger conclusion. The first disappointment arrives at check-in, when the room that was $99 online becomes $144 with the resort fee, and the front desk agent reads the explanation of the fee from a script with the specific cadence of a person who has explained the same thing 10,000 times and has long since stopped caring whether the guest accepts it. The second disappointment arrives on the casino floor, when the blackjack table, that should be the most player-friendly game in the building, turns out to pay 6 to 5, and the minimum is $25, and the shoe has 6 decks, and the dealer hits soft 17, and the game that the Hollywood mythology depicts as a fair contest between skill and chance is actually a house edge instrument that has been optimized over the past 15 years to extract as much as possible from as many players as possible as quickly as possible. The third disappointment arrives when the guest tries to access the sportsbook and discovers the minimum spend. The fourth, when the room smells like the previous guest's cigarettes. The fifth, when the folio at checkout contains a charge they do not recognize and the front desk agent cannot explain it, and the number to call is a call center and the hold time is 40 minutes. Each individual disappointment is survivable. The accumulation of them over 2 or 3 days produces the specific, quiet disillusionment that the Las Vegas subreddit threads with thousands of upvotes are documenting in real time. The discovery that the city you came to find was replaced by a different city while the popular culture was still showing you the original. Hollywood will not stop selling the old Las Vegas because the old Las Vegas is the better story. The heist works better in a city that has a soul worth robbing. The romance lands better in a city that has genuine magic available for 2 people who find each other in the right moment. The redemption arc resolves more satisfyingly in a city where the second chance feels real because the city itself has always been organized around the possibility of reinvention. The new Las Vegas, the city of resort fees and call center front desks and 6 to 5 blackjack and automated drink sensors, is not a better story. It is a spreadsheet. And nobody is making a 3-act narrative about a spreadsheet. So the productions will continue to be set in the myth rather than the reality. And the myth will continue to send visitors to a city that will disappoint them, and the LVCVA will continue to spend $1 billion a year reinforcing the same myth, and the gap between what is being sold and what is being delivered will continue to widen until either the product changes or the myth exhausts the last of its credibility and the visitors stop coming entirely. The visitors are already starting to stop coming. The 7.5% decline of 2025 is the early signal of a credibility exhaustion that the mythology can slow but cannot prevent. Because mythology has a specific relationship with lived experience. It can survive for a long time on the strength of cultural inertia, on the accumulated weight of decades of positive association, on the social proof of millions of people who went to Las Vegas and had the experience they expected and told people about it and sent the next wave. But it cannot survive indefinitely the accumulated weight of millions of people who went to Las Vegas and had a different experience and told people about that instead. The word of mouth that built the myth is now working against it. The Reddit threads and the travel forums and the conversations between people who went last year and people who are thinking about going next year are increasingly the conversations that the Hollywood mythology cannot compete with because they are specific and personal and recent in a way that a film from 2001 cannot be. Ocean's 11 is still beautiful. It is still entertaining. It is still the Las Vegas that people want to believe in. It is just not the Las Vegas that exists. And the distance between those two things is getting harder to close with a billboard or a celebrity partnership or a streaming documentary that was filmed in the 1% of the strip that still looks the part. Las Vegas sold the world a dream. Hollywood packaged it and distributed it and made it one of the most powerful place mythologies in American cultural history. And the city, in the way that cities do when they stop being places and become financial instruments, broke the dream. The cameras are still rolling, the lights are still on, the myth is still being made. But somewhere beneath the footage, in the specific, real, measurable experience of the visitor who checked in and found no hot water and a $45 resort fee and 6 to 5 blackjack on the main floor, the dream is gone. And no amount of cinematography brings it back.